Thank you for being here, Sam.
Thanks for having me.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, my name's Sam Dever. I'm a podcast host. I'm an actor. I'm a multimedia producer, artist, into creative things. And I've lived in Los Angeles for over 6 years now. I lived in Las Vegas for almost 8 years before that, and originally from the Midwest, Illinois to be exact. And growing up, cinema and music and creativity, I always looked at LA as being the final destination for myself. And it's awesome that I actually ended up here because it was back where I'm from, it was something that was so, I'd see it on TV. I used to watch MTV Cribs and see all my favorite hip hop stars and athletes and their multi-million-dollar mansions. And I remember I would just see the palm trees, the sun. I'm like, man, I want to live in LA one day. And I ended up being in Vegas before here, and Vegas was incredible. And I pretty much forgot about LA to some extent. But then when I was about 30, that's when that California itch started to come again. And I'm like, maybe I got to find out what it's like out there. So I came out here, went to Playhouse West acting school where I met you and a bunch of other amazing people. And yeah, have gone hardcore into my podcast as of late, and it's great. I love it here.
Nice. And you did some acting in Vegas, right?
Yeah, I did a little bit of acting. I went to an acting class out there called Actors Dynamic with Daryl Morris. And then I also was in the online series For a Fee, where I played lead detective Gustavo Serrano.
And I believe it's on Amazon right now.
Yep, Amazon Prime. You can get season 1 and 2.
Oh, nice. Okay. Season 3 on the way, or we don't know yet?
That I don't know. That's out of my control. So I don't know.
All right.
But I still go back and forth to Vegas. I'm still connected to a bunch of creatives over there. So it's really been great. I really have the best of both worlds right now because I have my Vegas creative group and I have my Los Angeles creative group, and it's only a 4.5 hour drive. So it's been fun to be able to go back and forth and do projects here, but also go back to Vegas and do projects there. And, as I'm doing my podcast more and more too, it's fun to connect and bring the two worlds together. So I'm having fun.
Excellent. And when did you move to Los Angeles?
I moved to Los Angeles. It was February 2018.
Okay, so you've been here for a while now.
Over 6 years, yeah.
6 years, okay. Excellent. And now you have a podcast here in LA.
Yep.
All right. Can you just tell us a little bit about your podcast?
Yeah, it's called the Sam Dever Podcast. And going back to Vegas again, in Vegas, I hosted and produced a show called The Social Media Show. I also did a lot of interviewing different businesses, entrepreneurs, on and off camera as well. So I've always had that interviewing experience. And when I came to LA, pretty much acting became the sole focus. I was going to Playhouse West, making films with people such as yourself and other people we know, and just really diving into acting. But I always had this idea for the podcast in the back of my mind. And I was a big fan, and still am, of the Joe Rogan Experience, because he really is one of the first people to really get big with podcasting. And I'm like, man, I know a lot of cool creative people from so many different industries. I just want to sit down and have conversations with them, not even have the show really be about anything, which I'm sure we'll get to, which if I had to do it over again, maybe I would do that but it's very broad. But what's cool about that, it's also very open-ended. So when the pandemic hit, none of us we were all just filming social media videos, which was fun for about the first 2 months. And then it's like, okay, are we going to be here forever type of thing? And I remembered, like, what, how might be the good time to do this podcast? So I remember going online and buying the samdeverpodcast.com and samdeverpodcast.com. And I posted it on social media, and I'm like, okay, I'm putting it out there. I'm doing this podcast. And then in October 2020, I drove to Las Vegas and actually filmed episode 1. Shout out to Casey Christon. I filmed with him, and I just did it. I just went and filmed the first one, and I filmed 5 episodes in person, and I felt it was a good time. It was a good time and a bad time. Yes, it was the pandemic, but no one really was doing much of anything. So I can start producing something here and start having some content to push out there. And then I had a major leg injury. So that, which I remember you remember that night.
Yeah, I do.
Thank you for your help once again.
No worries.
And yeah, I didn't do it for about 8-9 months because I thought I could. And I'm like, well, I'm hurt. And then a good friend, Tommy, who you remember, he was like, man, just start doing them online, do them on Zoom. And I'm like, no, I can't do that. I was doing them in person. That's a step backward. And I got in my head with that. But then finally, and I really give thanks to him because he kept just encouraging me to keep going. And finally, I'm like, okay, well, you're coming on then. You're going to be my first online guest. And we did it. And then as soon as I did it and saw how easy it was to do it, I just started knocking them out like crazy. And I got all the way and went from episode 6 to episode, I believe, 46. And then I took another crack at doing them in person again. I was running everything, the cameras, the audios, and it was a disaster to say the least. A lot of people may not know it when they see the finished product, but it was too much for one person to try to run everything. And I eventually connected with, his name is Eric Sarich. Big shout out and thanks to him. He now runs film and audio production for the podcast, and we've been working together for over a year now. And we just filmed episode 90. He joined on episode 50, and now we've gotten to episode 90. So now we're rocking and rolling. I've recently committed to 1 new episode a week every Monday. It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun. And I know that's a very long-winded answer, but I wanted to tell the full story of where it started and where we're at now.
All right. So you had this idea from like way back in Vegas, and you just didn't go after it. And when you came here to Los Angeles, you decided to go with a podcast, and you're doing really good. I mean, you have a lot of people coming on the show, and a lot of interesting stuff going on.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was always in the back of my mind because I had done other shows and interviews always with a theme. Like, for example, the social media show was all about social media. It's a pretty self-explanatory theme, whereas the Sam Dever podcast, well, yeah, it's me, but I'm not famous now.
Not yet.
Not yet. Who knows if I ever will be, but it's not as, if you don't know who I am, it's like, well, what's that? But the people I bring on and talk to are people I've either worked with for years, I've been really good friends with, or maybe I just met, but I had a really good connection with them. So it's really, whatever guest comes on, it's like talking to them through my eyes, similar to what we're doing right here. I mean, this is your platform. It's going to be through your voice. So I really enjoy showcasing. I like to call it, kind of those people that may not be super famous, but they're really great at what they do. And they need more shine, I feel. I'm like, man, this person's so incredible. I want to create something for them to have a place to speak and for people to get to know them better. So for that purpose, it's been incredible.
Nice. And if someone wants to start something like a podcast or something else, like, do you have an advice for them? Because now you have an experience. You have over 2 years, right? Over 2 years.
Over 4.
Over 4 years of
Total. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
With the Sam Dever podcast. With the Sam Dever podcast or any other project I've done, my number one piece of advice is just start. Analysis paralysis is the death of so many creative ideas. It's never going to be perfect. Even when you really get in the flow of what you're doing and you improve along the way, you are always going to improve along the way. So it is never going to be perfect. But I think so many of us, myself still included on some things, well, I can't do that until I have this piece of equipment, or I can't do that until blah, 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 blah. You got to create your own momentum. You have to create your own energy, because whether you believe in God, the universe, whatever, I feel it rewards people who progress forward. Because what happens is when you get out of your head and you just take that one step, it opens your mind and creates new pathways for you to say, oh, okay. Now it just leads you to the next thing on what you're supposed to do. Like, for example, I had this idea in my head about the podcast. I really want to do this podcast. How would I do it? I made a commitment. I put in an announcement that I was going to do it. Okay, now I've made myself publicly accountable to do it. Now I really have to figure it out. It was again during the pandemic, I didn't have a lot of equipment. I didn't have a lot of people to help me at the time. But I said, okay, I got a laptop, I have a couple of cameras. I don't even know how I'm going to do this. I'm just going to record audio on GarageBand on my Mac. I got this really cheap dual lavalier mic off Amazon where they're connected together and it plugs into your computer. And you know what though? But it worked. It did record the audio. And I remember, and this is a funny part. And it's actually in the first episode, the mic was actually unplugged for the first 10 minutes of our conversation, but the computer speaker captured the audio. So you have not good audio in the beginning to some okay audio. But my point to saying all this is I got back, I had all the film footage and all the audio recording. I went into iMovie and I just put it together. That's it. And then I had episode 1. And then you know what? I went out and I did episode 2. I did episode 3. And when you do that, you just gain confidence. You prove to yourself that you can do it. And you have to, I love what Quentin Tarantino says about filmmakers. I'm paraphrasing him, but it's something along the lines that every great filmmaker has 10 bad films in him or her. So go out there and get your 10 bad films out of the way. And I'm not saying everything you're going to do is going to be bad, but doing is the best learning. You can study all you want. You can think about things all you want, and those things have their place. But the best education you are going to get is to go out and do.
Hands-on. Yeah.
Hands-on. So that's, and I'm becoming more and more of that philosophy, especially of late. I love reading books, but the more you do start to follow your purpose and your intuition and creative side and wanting to put these projects together, it's like there's a time to read, but I'm so into what I'm doing right now, I need to be working on this. But it feels good. You're learning, you're creating, and it opens you up to other ideas. Because I'm big too, like you get these ideas stuck in your head. And I still have ideas in my head that have been there for 10 years. And I'm like, okay, I either need to get something out to see if I even want to do this even further. Because a lot of times you may think an idea is really good, or it's something you really want to do, but then you start to do it and then you realize like, oh, yeah, I don't think I really want to do this. But that's a good thing because then you don't have to think about it anymore. On to the next. And then sometimes you might take an idea like, let me just try. Oh, wow, huh? And it might show you something you never would have expected. But the only way you're going to ever do any of it is take action.
Okay, so now you have 90 episodes so far. And each week you have an episode on Monday, every Monday.
New episode, as of late, comes out every Monday.
All right. What time? Do you have a specific time?
Yeah, that's a great question. We're on the West Coast here, so it will upload to YouTube and go out on Spotify and Apple early in the morning. That's why I tell people to subscribe. Subscribe, youtube.com/@the-Sam-Dever-Podcast. Shameless plug. But that way people get notified, oh, the new episode's up. But yeah, if you check on Monday, by the time you get up, it's usually up. So one theme that's really been on my mind as of late. I recently just turned 37.
Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Officially in the late 30s now. And I don't know, it really lit a fire under me. And I'm not one for, oh, I'm this age or I'm that age, but the grays are coming in and I feel good, but I'm like, there's something, and I've learned a lot through the podcast, even talking to younger people on the podcast, that mid-20s energy. When you're in your mid-20s, you can't fail. The world is your oyster, that just blind optimism. We're going to do this no matter what. And I remember not only did I have it, I had it strong. But then you get older and I don't know, maybe the expectations of where you thought something was going to go doesn't pan out the way you thought. Or it just, you just get older. And I just really, through the podcast and just different conversations with different creatives, I realized it's a mindset. And recently I've really tapped back into that mid-20s mindset and even hitting the gym harder than I've hit. I've always stayed in shape, but not getting in way better shape. Not letting age become an excuse to not be at my top physical best. And by doing that, my mind has gotten sharper. I just have more energy. And I'm realizing so much that holds us back really is our own mind, our own fears, the unknown. And I had a major leg injury be 4 years this fall, and that really changed me as far as just realizing how fragile this life is. Not only how fragile it is, but it can change at any given time, and it is going to end for every single one of us. So that all being said, it's really given me clarity on, oh my gosh, this is my time here. Why wouldn't I do the things that I want to do?
Absolutely.
There's a reason why we all came out to Los Angeles. I came out here to do stuff like we're doing right now. So it really just reignited that recently. Just going for your dreams. And I don't know if you want to call it dreams, just going for that thing inside you, whether it's your gut feeling or inside your head, an idea, a vision, and bringing it to life because you can. And it may not turn out exactly how you thought it was going to be, but it may turn out to be something even better. And either way, you're going to feel satisfaction and purpose from it because you're living your truth. And that's really how I've been living lately. I've always lived that way, but I feel like I'm living that way 115% now.
So are you going to go back to the Midwest or you consider this home now, Los Angeles?
That is a phenomenal question. So I have multiple answers for that. I do not plan on moving back to the Midwest. Los Angeles is definitely home. Las Vegas will always be a home. And the Midwest will always be a home. My parents are still there. I love the falls there. It's beautiful. Not as much fan of snow and humidity though, or big storms. But you know what? If you would have asked me that 6-7 years ago, I would say, no way, never moving back. I'm a failure if I move back. Because I came out here to come out here, be here in LA, be in entertainment, do all of that. But as I've gotten older, I'm like, you know what? At the end of the day, if I had to go back there, it's okay. It may not be my first choice. And I think maybe a perfect scenario would be maybe I can live out here part of the time and be able to spend more time there, be able to see more of my family, reconnect with old friends back there. So LA is definitely home. It definitely, I just feel like I'm me out here. And I think a lot of us out here in LA feel that way. I was talking to someone not too long ago, a couple of people, and I just said, what I love about out here, anyone can literally be anything out here and it's accepted. No one judges it. No one questions it. Someone can be a corporate accountant during the day and a pop culture performance painter at night, and no one bats an eye. Everyone's an actor. It's so funny. Like we talk about acting with someone like, oh yeah, no, I did that back in the day, or yeah, no, I just auditioned for this, and you like, oh, I had no idea they were an actor. It's just assumed. So that's what I do. This place just suits me so well because I meet people such as yourself, where I can tell people ideas for something, and people get inspired, people get motivated, people give you ideas right back. Where I feel, and I'm not picking on any particular part of the country, but it's just not as much of that in other parts. Where here in Los Angeles, that's what this town was built on. What was the movie industry,
Creativity,
music, creativity, artistry. And there's just so many, and there's incredible artists all over the world, but here it's just so dense. It's a stone throw away everywhere. You just meet so many interesting people who are on the same wavelength of you as far as we're creators. We have to create. We don't know why. We just know that we have to. It is like, it's nice to be in a place where you don't have to justify it to anyone. It's just accepted. It's out here really is to the mind frame of it's do or die for me out here. I'm going all in to make my dreams and visions happen. And I love being around that energy. I love being around those people because it helps me, because you need, in this creative journey, you need people that are like-minded and supportive. You don't necessarily need people patting you on the back all the time, but you definitely don't need naysayers and people shooting down your ideas.
Yeah, absolutely.
You need people that are just going to be there for support, encouragement, and like minds fuel each other. And that's really what I love about Los Angeles. And this is definitely home for me. When I first came out here from Vegas, in my mind, because I had done some creative projects, had a few under my belt, I'm like, yeah, you just come out to LA and you start doing it. And I remember you were one of the first people that told me about the acting business. It is a business. Like, hey, you got to train, but then after that, you got to know your character type. After that, you got to start trying to find a manager, start trying to find an agent. You have to make sure you get the right headshot. There is a whole huge business, and that's just acting. I remember I was having a conversation with someone, and this is maybe when I had been out here 2.5 years, maybe closer to the 2-year mark, maybe something like that. And the guy I was talking to asked me, he's like, how long you been out here? I'm like, 2.5 years, whatever it was. And he goes, talk to me when you've been out here for 7. And he said, he goes, most people, you don't even find your footing out here till year 7 and probably year 10. And that really was eye-opening because I believe he's correct. I mean, even if you have solid connections coming out here right away, it's such a big place. There's so many circles of people. Sure, once you get in circles, certain people, but I feel LA takes years just to get your footing. And that's where I feel I'm at now after year 6. I feel I have my footing now. So doing the podcast and other creative projects I want to do, more people. You know how the town works a little better. You just have more confidence out here. You've stabilized your living in your life to a certain degree, figured that part out. And now I'm at a place like, okay, now it's time to take some really, not that you can't take big swings right away out here, but I feel for the long run game, because LA is a long run game. I'm like, okay, we can now really take some big swings and calculated swings with some more force behind it, because we know more people. We know how things work a little better out here. We know the lay of the land. You just can't give up. And I think this goes back to what we've talked a lot about too. You just have to love it. You just have to love it. I honestly think, and like they told us in acting school, if you can go make money doing something else, and this was in regards to acting, but I think it goes to all types of creative things, go do something else if you can make decent money at it if you don't really love this. And it's true, because if you don't love it, and if it's not something that you feel you have to do, like it's burning inside you, it's just constant rejection all the time. Like, I mean, especially for all of you that audition all the time, like, man, like it is just constant rejection. That's why you just have to really enjoy the process. Even with the podcast, you know, sure, I would love to get it to a certain point where, yeah, it's doing well financially, where it's got a certain following. But at the end of the day, and I didn't say this earlier, and this is one thing I did say to myself going into the podcast project, I am going to be okay no matter what the outcome is with this. Because my number one goal with that was not to make money. It was just to do it. I just wanted to do it and put it together and bring that vision to reality. I really feel too, when obstacles come, that's what helps define you as well. It sharpens you. It makes you better. Yeah, you're going to get knocked down. Yep, you're going to have setbacks. Yeah, you're going to have days where, honestly, even when you're doing what you love doing and it's what you want to do, you are going to, I just had this talk with someone. You're going to have days where it just doesn't feel as good doing it, because at the end of the day, it is work. You are working. Like, I think this is a thing too, and this is something that if I could go back and tell my younger self, I did fall into the category. Sure, I loved working and creating things, but I had that, ooh, I want to be famous. I want to be rich. I want people to know who I am. And that stems from narcissism and social media and all those things. But after you've been humbled, and that's why I feel the age I am now at 37, I've been humbled. I've had to take a back seat. But now the beautiful part about it was almost like a phoenix rising from the ashes is you do realize, like, no, I actually do really enjoy this. I really do love doing these creative things. And you know what? I'm okay if I never make $1 off of it. It would be nice, but if it never happens, it's way better to live your truth and your purpose, making no money, than going and making a bunch of money and you're empty.
If somebody wants to find you on YouTube, can you tell us where we can go and find you? I mean, you have Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah, I'll give you all the links.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so personal social media, you can follow me on Instagram at Sam Dever. And that's SamDever. For the podcast, you can follow the Sam Dever Podcast on Instagram, on TikTok, Facebook.com/the Sam Dever Podcast. You can find the LinkedIn page, type in the Sam Dever Podcast. To listen to the podcast, you can follow on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And the place where I'm really trying to push everyone right now is the YouTube channel. We're really building that YouTube channel out, and it's youtube.com/@the-Sam-Dever-Podcast. Would greatly appreciate if you would subscribe, hit that notification button. And like I said, new episode every Monday.
Is there anything else you would like to add?
First of all, thank you for this opportunity. I think it's awesome what you're doing with this project, and, you know, knowing you personally and how hard you work and your creative talents, I think it's incredible. And I can't wait to see where you take this. So thank you.
Thank you.
And yeah, I would say I'm really passionate now more than ever of living your purpose, living your truth, whether that's in arts or not. Maybe for some people, it is doing a certain type of work or a job. It is just doing some hobby that they really want to do. Anything, as being of service of any kind. But whatever that thing is, or things that are pulling you and they're always in your head, and it just feels like you just feel that intuition that, yeah, that's what I'm supposed to do, at least right now. Follow that. Follow that. Follow that truth. Follow that truth of purpose, creativity, and being in alignment with your true self.
Well, thank you for doing this, Sam. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Mike. I had a blast doing this, and I really appreciate the opportunity. And again, I think it's fantastic what you're doing. Keep doing this. It's great.